All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good morning, whatever time it is from wherever you're watching from. I hope you all had an amazing time since the first class, and this is another time to look into the n8n workspace. A little recap from what we did in the last class. We looked at the introduction to AI automation, and we define AI, the concept, AI, the interface, and all. We said AI automation is simply using artificial intelligence to automate tasks and processes. That is, to combine artificial intelligence with automation workflow. And we talked about the advantage of doing this, which includes speed, there is accuracy, scalability, and efficiency. And also, we move forward to look at some examples of AI automation. And we discovered that AI automation can be used across various domains, like in chatbot, in data analysis, email automation, content creation, image recognition, and lots more. And we also looked at other aspects like uh, customer servicing. We have AI answering customer question. Of course, like in the case of a chatbot, we also have in report summarizing, where you ask AI to summarize certain results for you based on um, the data that you gave. And we also talked about n8n. Then we said n8n is simply a workflow automation platform that allows you to connect apps and automate work processes. And so we also looked at what n8n is used for, or why are we using n8n for this class. And we said n8n is a visual builder, is a visual workflow builder. It also has the capacity of integrating many apps. It has an AI support. And one of the amazing things with n8n is that you can run it both locally and on cloud. And I remember I said we are using um, the, the cloud version session, and I will try as much as possible within the short time I have to walk us through that. And I hope today's session will be an enjoyable session. We also looked at the interface of n8n. Of course, I will also be taking us through that. And then we also talk about how data flows in n8n. We said data travels between uh, within n8n as a JSON object. And I say a JSON object is a general standard format on how data are transferred between systems. So a JSON object is simply a key value pair collection of data embedded within curly brace. That is a JSON object. And I also remember I told you the meaning of JSON, that is a JavaScript object notation. This is actually a format that systems use to transfer data between them. So more so, we talked about triggers, the trigger node. We explained some basic nodes like the trigger node, how that the trigger node is simply the node that kickstarts your workflow, that begins the workflow. So without trigger in your workflow is a static, it's like a static vehicle that has no battery in it, that has no life in it. And we talked about some example of triggers like the webhook. the webhooks that allows you to receive data from other external applications. And also we have the schedule trigger, which is time-based that allows your workflow to run within a specific time or interval. And also we talked about uh, triggers that are app specific. For instance, like Gmail trigger, Telegram trigger, Stripe or Stripe trigger, which allows your workflow to start when a payment is received. So we discuss a lot, and we also discuss about HTTP request node that allows you to connect API to external services. Um, like example, in the case of when you are trying to collect, um, to call an API or to fetch a data from an API from a website. We also talk about the set node that allow you to create and modify fields. We talked about the if node that is used to create conditional logic within your workflow. We have the merge node also that combines streams of data together into one node. We have the email node that allow you to automate emails. Yes. And also we have the database node that allow you to connect to databases like Postgres, MongoDB, and lots more. And we also look at this diagram of a typical workflow. We talk about the business application, the business aspect of automation. You can go into freelancing, automating services to business. You can also build automating system uh, for for clients, for businesses, for industries. Um, I think pretty much those are just the tip from what we discussed in the last section. And today, briefly, we'll be before we go into the interface, we'll be talking about variables and function in n8n. So variable is the same everywhere. Programming world is the same thing we have in n8n. Also, remember I said because I mentioned programming, you don't have to disturb yourself. You mustn't know how to program or write the code. You still get along with n8n provided you know the basics. All right. Now we'll be using functions and variable a lot, and this is the reason for uh, talking about it. All right. Okay, good. So variable are just like containers that helps you to store data during your workflow. That is the basic definition you can ever have. A container that stores data during your workflow. So for instance now, we talked about JSON, and I told you that JSON is simply collection of data in key value pairs embedded within curly braces. And I show you a typical JSON object. For instance, we say name column John. Now the name is the variable that is holding the value John. So whenever I want to access the value of John, I access the value of John through the name variable. So variable are like containers that helps you to store your data in n8n. And there are different kinds of variable in n8n. For instance, we have variable that can be in form of text, example, like the name John. We have variable that can be in form of number. We also have, it could also be in decimal. It can also come as a Boolean, true or false. So basically, variable are storage locations for holding values, for storing values. I hope that is clear. We have all other complex variables like objects and like arrays, like lists. Okay. So quickly, let's talk about functions. Functions perform specific value in anything. Functions are JavaScript expressions that are used to manipulate your variable. That is to perform some logic, specific logic, so to speak, in anything. Example of a function can be, let's say you want to convert a particular text in n8n to capital letter. There is a function responsible for that. There are functions to perform logic. For instance, like the if function, like the noun function, and the JSON function that allows you to manipulate data from the previous nodes. So basically, function allows you to perform specific logic. They allow you to transform data in a specific way. All right, I think I left that out in our last class, so I just decided to bring it in. So I will be sharing my screen now while I walk you through the n8n interface. All right, let me quickly share my screen. Uh, just a minute. I want to share this screen. Let me quickly share this. I don't know if you can see my screen. Screen will be coming up in a minute. Okay. So I said we'll be using the n8n cloud version. So first thing first, what you need to do is to go to your n8n.io. n8n.io. I hope my screen is visible. Go to n8n.io. So once you go to n8n.io, this is the interface that you have. The next thing you need to do is to click on this button at the top right corner that says Get Started. So I'm going to click on that. If you have an account, you can sign in. So we are starting from scratch, so let me assume I have no account yet. Now, n8n is not free. However, n8n is providing us with a 14-day trial, and then we can upgrade the plan if we want to. So let me go back again. You start. And so this is the page you get to, this trial version. So all I need to do now is to let me use email. So you submit. Now we're gonna check our email. Let me do that real quick from here. A number has been sent to the email. We just need to go into the email and fetch it out. All right, so I have it. So you enter the number, verification. You submit like so. All right. So this form wants to collect our data. So let me use, and then I will create a password for that. Let me just create, I think that's the password. Now you create the username. Let me say defend Innovatech. Now I'll check this box, and also I'll check this to verify that I am a human being. So once the verification is successful, all you need to do is to smash this 14 days trial button. So I will click on that while I wait. Let me just save this. All right, it's trying to walk me through some questions. Uh, okay, still waiting. Why it's finished? Trying to set up an account for us. Why it's taking time? Where should I? Oh, taking time. Okay, just sign in again. So I will log in with my email. Just log in. Right, great. Now this is our interface. This is what you will see uh, when you first access the n8n page. Okay, so you could see we are having a 14 days trial here. It is asking us to upgrade from this point. So all I need to do right now is to click on personal, and I will see this button here. Just click on create workflow. Now this is how the workflow environment looks like. Now you will see the various editors that we have here. You know, I showed you this one in the last class. Uh, these are used to format the Canva, like this one fits your details to screen. You can use this to zoom in, this one to zoom out, this one use it to format your workflow. Okay. Now this is where you name your workflow. Let's say my my first workflow. Let's call it my first visit. All right. So we have this portion here that says editor, which is the part you are seeing here. The execution screen, this is where you catch errors, if you remember, and the overflow, the evaluation. Of course, you can see a brief video there. If you want to know more about that, you can check that out. Now, this is the publish button that we use to, publish our workflow once done. And if you see this plus here, this is where we have our nodes. This one is for command. Basically, you can go through. Now, in the n8n cloud version, we have this AI built-in capacity. But if you are using the local version, you won't have this one there. So that's one of the advantage of using the cloud version. All right. So the first thing to do is to begin to add our node or add step. Remember the last time I told you that a step is simply a node in a workflow. All right. So when I click on this add step, it opens up the trigger pane for me to select what kind of trigger do I want to use. Remember the last time we said the trigger is what kickstarts your workflow. And if you remember, we defined almost all these triggers. I told you we have the app triggers that the workflow should start when something happened within an app, maybe like Telegram, a message is received, the workflow should start. We talked about the on schedule. We talk about the webhook. There's also form submission. When the form is submitted, the trigger should start and all. So let's just look at the trigger manually actually is what we use to get started when we are new to n8n. You just want it to start manually. You want to be the one to initiate it to start. But we won't be going through that. As I'm explaining, I also want us to build something simple. Now we have other apps that we can use, other nodes like the Gmail. Uh, Basically, there are hundreds of nodes here. Come on, we can't exhaust them. But I will try to see how I explain why we build. So let's first explain what we want to do. Now, let's imagine this workflow. Let's assume in a country, you are not eligible to vote until you are of a certain age. All right. So let me assume our age here is 18. You can't vote until you are 18. And you have to fill a form, and then your eligibility status will now be communicated to you whether you're eligible to collect the voter's card or not. Okay, so what we are trying to build now is we want to build a workflow that will allow user to fill a form, and then we'll email them to tell them if they are eligible to vote or not. So how do we do that? So from this brief explanation I just gave, you will find out that our trigger will start when the user fills a form. Okay, this is how we'll do it. So I'll click on add first step, and my trigger here will be on form submission. On form submission. So you see, this is our form submission when the user fills the form, and you will discover that this interface is divided into three sections, or is partitioned into three. In the first partition by your left, this is where you see all the inputs. In the middle partition here, this is where you set that particular node. And in the third partition by your right here is your output. This is where you see what that node is giving out. We have the input, we have the configuration or the settings, and then we have the output. Now, this is our form. You can see it's saying form title. Here, we are not setting authentication. We can give it a title. Let's say voters eligibility. Let's call it that way. Voters eligibility. And you can give a description of that form if you want to. And gradually we will come to these places. But what we need to do right now is to add a form element. Add a form element. So you see a respond when form is submitted. So this workflow will start the moment this form is submitted. So I will go like this. I will add a form element. Let's add a form element. We've added one. We added a form element. Let's give it a label. Let's say maybe first name. This is our label. I want to now. Let's just take a text input. Let's add another form element. Now I want to take another input. Set it to require. Set that to require. Oh, time is always against me. The second one, we'll say maybe last name. Let's set that to text also. Let's add an attribute of require. Let's take another one. Let's take email. Let's take email. Also, I'll make that one require also. Let's also take the age. Let's take their age. This is just for demonstration. Come on. Let's make it a number. And we also want it to require. And lastly, let's take their status, whether they are eligible or not. We leave that as text. And the the way we go about this is all right. I think it's done. Let's execute this step. When I execute this step, you see it opens up this page for me. I will enter, let me enter this name. Let's say this person is 17. Okay. Stop listening. I think I missed something. Let me remove this part, this status. Okay. So let me take this person and say maybe this person is 17. Let me submit. So that one is submitted. Let me execute the step again. Um, let's say this person is 20. And let me execute that. Okay. So you could see the data that I received from this input is here. This is the output. Like I told you, this is what the form is receiving. This is the configuration, and this is the output. And you can see, you can view the output in three different formats. We have the schema, we have the table formats, and then we have the JSON. This is how a typical JSON object looks like. All right, this is all about this particular node. So this node has been configured to receive input for user. This node is configured to receive input for user. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add another step. So once this input has been received, what should happen? We want to save it somewhere. So I will save it on my Google Sheet. So this is my Google Sheet. And what we want to do is we want to create an append row, or let's just say append or update row, or append row in the sheet or clear sheet. Whatever you want to do, you can see it here. So, but for our sake, let's say we want to append a row in a sheet. That's what we want to do. So, but it will require us to register our email. So what we'll do is I will sign up from here. I will sign up using my email. Coming up. I just need to accept all this and then continue. I'll wait. So that is done successfully. So you cannot see this node is receiving this input from the previous node. This is its configuration, and this is the output, what is given out. So you will see the resource type is this sheet. But let's go first of all, let me open my email, my Gmail right there. Open my Gmail. I need a Google Sheet. So let me take, if we can just view these two nodes, we'll continue in the next class. I don't want to rush us because I'm time bound. So I'll take a blank sheet, So quickly, I will change the title of my sheet to uh, voters LT, voters LGBT. So I want to get their first name, the same last name, Also want to take their email, their age, and then the status. So this is what we want to take. So let's go back to our, we'll close this. Now, we want to append row. That's what we are doing. Now, this is our document. We need to choose the document. You can see it has identified that we have a sheet called voters eligibility. We'll pick that. And the sheet we want to use is the sheet one. If we had called this sheet one something else, then we will be able to call that sheet from that place. Okay. So what we will do now is we want to map each details from the input we are receiving. For instance, this first name, we want to just drag this first name into this place. The last name, we want to drag it here. The email, we want to drag it here. And the age, we want to drag it here. Now, but when it comes to the status is a little bit different. Status is a little bit different. This is the status here. What we want to do on the status is we want to write an expression to do that for us. So we'll use if is a function. So the condition we want to test is the age. If the age is greater than 18, because we are using number, you see, greater than 18, then we said is eligible. Is eligible, comma, otherwise not eligible. So this is what we'll be doing in this particular node. And if I execute this step, you will see the output. Now, it's saying eligible for this person because the age is 20. So if we go back to our form, you see it has updated our Google Sheet from this form. So this is where I'll be calling it off. We will continue in our next session. I hope you enjoyed this session. See you next week.